Here's a powerful way to turn any negative situation into a positive one. And this is no fluff. And some of the things I say might trigger you, but they're true. And the sooner you accept this truth, the sooner you liberate yourself and live a life of empowerment. And even if the things I say might trigger you in the beginning, or they seem like nonsense to you, just contemplate on them and try to adapt these beliefs, because they really helped me enormously along my journey. And ultimately, from a higher perspective, they're true. So, the first thing to begin with, what we need to understand about problems, is that in this human experience, we are supposed to have problems. Of course, we don't want to have problems because they make our lives harder sometimes, right? But I wouldn't even frame it as a problem. I would rather frame it as a challenge, because a challenge is something that you have to overcome to grow. And that's what problems or challenges are truly about. They're here for our growth and expansion. And you're eventually going through a tough time right now. Maybe you're struggling with your bills. Maybe you're struggling with money. Maybe somebody broke up with you, or maybe something even deeper. Maybe somebody died that was close to you. And I'm not saying that you should act like this didn't happen, or that it's not there, or to avoid the emotions. That's spiritual bypassing. I'm not one of those people who says that's like say all is well all the time. In the grander scheme, all is well. In the grander scheme, everything unfolds perfectly. When you understand that in a grander scheme everything is happening for a reason, you also shift your perspective. But it's also important to face the moment and be aware of what's happening now. But once you are aware of what's happening now, that's when you can shift to the grander scheme and understand that everything in this life is happening for a reason, and that the problems that we face are here for a reason. And that reason, simple, growth and expansion, because life is about growth and expansion. And although we don't see all the time why it's happening in a moment, just think back 10 or 15 years ago about challenges that you faced along the journey, or problems that you had, obstacles that you had to overcome. If you didn't face these challenges, you wouldn't be the person that you are now. And maybe some of them maybe you still have some trauma inside of you from certain experiences that you haven't, where you still couldn't forgive, or still carrying this emotional baggage with you. But there have been multiple experiences that allowed you to expand and grow. And if you look back, you will see that. You will see that the time when somebody left you, it allowed you to love yourself more, to be more content with yourself, and to appreciate the time with yourself. The time somebody fired you, like you had a job and they fired you. Eventually that happened to you. It allowed you to step into independence, to use your creativity and think of ways to make money independently. There's always a possibility. There's always an opportunity for you to grow out of these challenges. And the first thing I wanted to address in this video is just being aware that these challenges and all problems are here for us to grow and expand. And another thing that I've learned from one of my favorite teachers called Wayne Dyer, there's a book he has written called There's a Spiritual Solution to Any Problem. My bad. There's a spiritual solution to any problem. That's the name of the book. He said that all problems are actually just a signal that we are disconnected from source, from God, whatever you want to call it. And that when we are experiencing problems in our lives, it's a sign for us to reconnect to that source, to go into meditation again, to go into prayer, to go into visualization. There are multiple ways how you can connect. I'm not a religious person, but I believe that we can take something great from all religions. But whatever you want to call this source, God, Allah, the quantum field, the universe, it doesn't matter. We are connected to it, and we are connected to it at all times. And the main essence of that book was just that when we are out of alignment, that's when a lot of problems come into our life. When we step back into alignment, that's when we find the solution to those problems. And that there's actually no disconnection from source, that you can't be disconnected from your source because you're always connected to it. It's just in your beliefs and in your mind. And the moment you open yourself up again, and the moment you become aware of this connection again, you will find solutions to your problems. It's also something I wanted to mention, but here's the essence of what I wanted to talk about: how to turn a negative situation into a positive one. Because this was just a foundation, And although it's simple, I just wanted to repeat it because we tend to forget it. I sometimes forget it. And it's something we have to remind ourselves over and over again. But this is also something that sounds simple, but it's really, 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 really very essential for you to understand. You are responsible for everything that happened in your life, everything that's happening right now, and everything that will happen in your life. And now you might say, what you talking about? Like, I'm not responsible for everything that happened in my life. I'm not responsible for that teacher treating me like shit. I'm not responsible for being fired from my job. I'm not responsible for everything that happened in my life. And you probably get me wrong. You probably heard me wrong. I'm not saying that it's your fault. I'm not saying that it's your fault that all of these things happen to you. That those people treating you bad, for example. But you are responsible. You have the power to choose your response. You are response able. And when you get that, you no longer react out of emotion. You no longer react out of your automatic behavior, the way you've been automatically programmed, because we've all been programmed since we've entered this world, from our parents, from school system, from many, many different influences. And when you realize that you are responsible, you can choose your response in any given moment. Negative things can happen out there. You do not control things that are happening outside in the physical world. You can move some things, you can take actions, you can influence it with your thoughts and your imagination. That's another video we're going to dive into. But you do not control everything that's happening in the world, but you can control what's happening within. Nobody can control you and what's going on inside of you unless you allow them to. And when you understand that, that's when the big shifts happen, because when you understand that you are responsible, that you can choose your response in any given moment, even in the bad situations, you can choose a different response. You can ask yourself different questions. And here's the most powerful way. Once you understand this, that you have the power to choose your response, here's the most powerful way to turn a negative situation around, which is the juice of all of this, which I wanted to get to, which is also very simple, but guess what? Simplicity is the key. The key is to ask yourself in those situations, what is good about this? Or what could be good about this? And this maybe also sounds ridiculous to you right now. But what this does is it shifts your focus to the positive. It shifts your focus to possibilities. It shifts your focus to opportunities for you to take this moment and to turn it around into something positive. Because if you don't turn it around into something positive, if you don't use your responsibility, your ability to respond differently, then you will be taken away from it. It just wipes off your feet and you fall on your face and you're just going through all of these struggles, And sometimes we have to go through that. But if you ask yourself, what is good about this? What could be good about this? Then you find answers to that question. And the questions we ask determine where we put our focus on. And where we put our focus on, or what we put our focus on, expands. So if you constantly ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why are they treating me like this? Why is everyone against me? Why is everything never working out? You're going to get more answers for that because he focuses on that. But if you ask what is good about this, what could be good about this, you find solutions to the situation that you're in. And this can go for everything. For example, I injured my collarbone in the past week and during jiu-jitsu. And the doctors told me I will probably need surgery. But I didn't take on that belief because I know that your beliefs shape your reality. And I strongly believe that we have a self-healing power inside of us. And funny enough, 1 week later, I went there again and they said no surgery is necessary. And I can move my arm already. But what I did immediately, because I trained myself to do this, when I injured myself in that moment, I asked myself, what is good about this? Immediately, I was surprised that I immediately asked this question. I'm not joking. For a moment, I was a bit like, man, I don't want to go to the hospital now because I don't like the energy in the hospital. But I wasn't feeling bad. I wasn't like, man, I'm gonna be out and I can't train for 6 weeks or whatever, or 2 months. I don't know when I'm gonna go back to training. I now can move my body, blah blah. I wasn't thinking like this. Back then I would have thought like this, but not now anymore. I was asking myself, what is good about this? And the more I contemplated on this question, because I consciously asked myself this question, actually subconsciously came out already, but then I consciously pondered on that question, the more answers I received. Okay, this is a great way to train my left arm. This is a great way to slow down, because I was going real fast. I was doing a lot of things during that time, and I strongly believe that when we injure ourselves, it's also a sign from the universe, from the source, that we need to reassess how we do things, you know? So I was putting out all of these, I was just counting all of these positive things about the situation. And even the people close to me were surprised that I wasn't feeling bad about it. And I wasn't acting like I'm not doing it. I genuinely flipped that situation into a positive one in that moment. And now it's already healing, because I did some practices as well for that, mentally, and also slow movements. But I'm just using this example to show you that a couple years ago I would have thought bad about it. I would have been worried. I would have been afraid. I would have used my thoughts, and not in a constructive way, but in a way that focuses on the negative all the time. And I didn't ignore this situation, but I asked myself, what is good about this? And of course, this is not like the worst thing that could happen. There's a lot of things happening out there that are way worse. And I've been in situations in my life that have been very traumatic, and where it wasn't that easy to think that way. But I know right now I would think differently about them. And you might go through different situations that are harder right now. And I'm not saying this to be the hero or whatever, but I'm just saying that even in those hard situations where you don't see a way out, if you ask yourself that question, if you use your mind, if you shift your focus on the good, on the possibilities, you will find the possibilities, you will find the opportunities, you will find the solutions. And a great reason for myself, because I mentioned a book before as well, a great reason for me, or a positive reason that came up for me when I asked myself what's good about this, is that I said it's a great way for me to connect to my source and to make use of my self-healing power, to go deeper into prayer, to go deeper into meditation, you know? So when you ask yourself what is good about this, you will find the answers to turn any negative situation into a positive one. And one last thing, this also sounds a bit controversial eventually to you, but in the higher sense, and I'm talking about in the universal sense, there is no good or bad. There's just an experience. Everything we experience is just an experience. And what makes the experience good or bad is our judgment, the way we label it, you know? And it's good that we have this judgment for certain things. It's good that we have this label for certain things. And we have collective judgments as well. For example, if somebody is killing someone, it would be bad if we just said it's a good thing, or if we just said, oh, it's just an experience, you know? Of course, it's good to have this judgment. But in situations where you are going through hard times, it's good to be able to detach from that experience and to, you know what I mean, to just see it, observe it from an upper perspective, and then decide to shift it from a negative situation into a positive one, to shift your thoughts to the positive side. And that's where the question comes in. What could be good about this? And because could opens up the possibilities. So even if you're struggling with money right now, ask yourself what's good about this. Maybe it's a good time to manage your money in a better way. Maybe it's a good time to start a business, to step into service, to offer something to the world that you're passionate about. If somebody broke up with you, maybe it's a good time for you to spend time with yourself, or to assess your values, to see if there's maybe been an attachment wound inside, or like generally maybe there was too much attachment and you placed all your focus and all your energy on that person and forgot to care about yourself. Maybe it's an opportunity to just love yourself more and more deeply, you know? Whatever you're going through, and whatever you will go through. If you remind yourself of this, you will be able to shift any negative situation into a positive one. And you will be able to realize that you are responsible, because that's the most important aspect. Being aware that you can choose your response. So the next time, or even right now, when this is happening to you, remember that everything is happening for a reason. Every challenge is there for you to expand and grow. You're responsible, and ask yourself, what is good about this? And the more you do this, the more you train yourself this way, the more it sinks into your subconscious and it becomes your natural way of being. And that's when you become the alchemist. So, like I said, contemplate on this. Even if some of this might have triggered something inside of you, just contemplate on these thoughts. Of course, you can always decide for yourself what you take on into your life. I'm not your master. I'm just sharing my experiences. I'm just sharing what worked for me, and with the intention that it serves you as well. So I hope this video could serve you. If you want to go deeper, I've recently created something called the 7-Day Alchemy Guide, the 7-Day Alchemy Method, where I show you how to release negative emotions, trapped energy, energetic blockages, and to get out of analysis paralysis and step into action so that you can step out into the world and create as a divine being that you are. Create from a sense of power, clarity, and integrity. And if that's of interest to you, you can check that out in the link in the description. And with that being said, I thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying here with me. I thank you for being here. I'm Law Heru, and this is the way of law. One love.